Maya Thompson, an overworked hotel maid, never expected to wake up on a billionaire's couch, let alone catch his eye. But when Lucas Hawthorne sees her dedication, he offers more than just a second chance. Is it a job upgrade or the start of an unexpected love story? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The alarm clock rang at 4:30 a.m. and Maya Thompson's hand reached out to silence it before she even opened her eyes. For a brief moment, she allowed herself to enjoy the warmth of her bed, but that luxury lasted only seconds. She had to be at the Hawthorne Grand Hotel by 5:30 a.m., and the bus ride took 40 minutes. Maya's tiny apartment was barely big enough for a bed, a small table and a kitchenette, but it was clean. She always made sure of that. After a quick shower, she put on her navy blue uniform with the hotel's golden emblem embroidered on the pocket. She looked at herself in the mirror and tucked a strand of her dark hair behind her ear. At 28, the lines of exhaustion were already beginning to show around her eyes. Her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from her younger sister, Lily. Need to pay for school trip. $200. Can you help? Miss you. Maya sighed and typed. Back. We'll send money on Friday. Miss you too. Every penny she earned went back home to support her 3 younger siblings. Since their parents died 5 years ago, Maya had become both mother and father to them, moving to the city to find better paying work while her aunt helped care for the kids. The morning air was chilly as Maya waited at the bus stop. A luxury. Car zoomed past, splashing dirty water on her freshly cleaned uniform. She closed her eyes and counted to 10. It was going to be one of those days. By the time she arrived at the Hawthorne Grand, the early morning staff was already bustling about. The hotel was a gleaming tower of glass and steel, catering to the richest and most powerful people in the UA. World. You're cutting it close, said Rita, the head of housekeeping, checking her watch with a frown. Sorry, the bus was late, Maya replied, clocking in with just 2 minutes to spare. I've got a special assignment for you today, Rita continued, flipping through her clipboard. The royal suite needs to be turned over by noon. The previous guests left it in a state, and the new VIP is arriving early. The royal suite was the crown jewel of the Hawthorne Grand. 5,000 square feet of luxury on the top floor, with a private elevator and panoramic views of the city. Maya had cleaned it before, but it usually took a team of 3. Just me? Maya asked, surprised. Everyone else is tied up with the conference on the mezzanine level. I know you can handle it, Rita said, already walking away. Don't disappoint me. Maya rode the service elevator to the top floor, pushing her cleaning cart ahead of her. When she entered the royal suite, she gasped. A state was putting it mildly. The place looked like a hurricane had hit it. Empty champagne bottles littered the marble countertops. Designer clothes were strewn across the furniture. The bed in the master bedroom was a jumble of tangled sheets. 8 hours to clean this, Maya muttered to herself. Might as well be. 8 minutes. She got to work, moving methodically from room to room. By 11:30 a.m., sweat was dripping down her back, and her legs ached from bending, lifting, and scrubbing. The suite was finally starting to look like its pristine self again. As she finished polishing the last of the crystal glasses in the bar area, Maya heard her phone buzz. Another text from home, this time from her brother James. Roof started leaking again. Need money for repairs ASAP. Maya's heart sank. Between Lily's school trip and now the roof, her next paycheck was already spent. She leaned against the bar counter, suddenly overcome with exhaustion. The plush sofa in the living room looked so inviting. Just 5 minutes, she told herself. Just a moment to close her eyes and gather her strength. She sat down, meaning only to rest briefly. But the moment her body sank into the soft cushions, the exhaustion of working 60-hour weeks for the past 3 years caught up with her. Before she knew it, her eyes closed, and she drifted off to sleep. The sound of the private elevator doors opening jolted Maya awake. Panic flooded her body. As she realized where she was and what she had done, she jumped to her feet, but it was too late. Standing in the entryway, still as a statue, was a tall man in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit. Maya recognized him instantly from the photographs displayed throughout the hotel. Lucas Hawthorne, the 35-year-old. billionaire CEO who owned not just this hotel, but a chain of luxury properties around the world. His piercing blue eyes locked onto hers, his expression unreadable. Maya felt her heart hammering in her chest. This was it, she was going to be fired on the spot. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Hawthorne," she stammered, smoothing down her wrinkled uniform. "I was cleaning the suite and I only meant to sit down. For a minute." Lucas Hawthorne didn't respond immediately. Instead, he studied her with an intensity that made her shift uncomfortably. Unlike the polished, rehearsed smile he wore in the hotel promotional materials, his actual expression was guarded, almost cold. "What's your name?" he finally asked, his voice deep and controlled. "Maya Thompson, sir. I've been working here for 3 years in housekeeping." He set his leather briefcase down and walked further into the suite, looking around at the now gleaming space. "You did all this cleaning by yourself?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Maya replied, her hands twisting nervously in front of her. "I was told you were arriving at noon and I had it almost finished. I shouldn't have sat down. It won't happen again." Lucas moved to the bar and poured himself a glass of water, his movements deliberate and precise. "When did you start your shift today, Miss Thompson?" 5:30 this morning, sir." "And you've been cleaning this suite since then?" "Yes, sir. It was quite messy when I arrived." Something that might have been a smile briefly touched his lips. "Yes, the Andersons are known for their wild parties. 6 hours of non-stop cleaning would tire anyone out." Maya couldn't believe he was being so understanding. She'd expected to be escorted out of the building by security. "Thank you for your understanding, Mr. Hawthorne. I'll finish up and get out of your way immediately." As she turned to gather her cleaning supplies, Lucas spoke again. "Wait." Maya froze, turning back to face him. "You have something—" He gestured to his own cheek, indicating a spot on her face. Maya quickly wiped at her cheek, mortified to find a smudge of cleaning solution there. Great. She'd been sleeping in front of the owner of the hotel with cleaning product on her face. "There's a staff meeting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in the Grand Ballroom. All department heads and representatives will be there. I want you to attend." Maya's confusion must have shown on her face because he added, "I like to meet the people who make my hotels run smoothly. You've done exceptional work here today, especially given the circumstances." Thank you, sir. I'll be there." Lucas nodded once, then turned his attention to his phone, effectively dismissing her. Maya gathered her supplies as quickly as possible and wheeled her cart to the service elevator, her mind racing. What had just happened? Was this a good thing? Or was he planning to make an example of her in front of everyone tomorrow? As the elevator doors closed behind her, Maya leaned against the wall and let out a long breath. In all her years at the Hawthorne Grand, she'd never so much as glimpsed the owner in person. And now, on the day she fell asleep on the job, he not only caught her, but also invited her to a staff meeting usually reserved for management. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. When Maya finally clocked out at 7 p.m., Rita stopped her. "Heard you had an encounter with Mr. Hawthorne himself," Rita said, her expression concerned. "Are you okay? Do you still have a job?" "I think so," Maya replied, still uncertain. "He actually invited me to the staff meeting tomorrow morning." Rita's eyebrows shot up. "The executive staff meeting? That's unusual. Is it bad? Should I be worried?" Rita shrugged. "Who knows with him? Lucas Hawthorne is brilliant at business, but he's impossible to read. Just be on your best behavior tomorrow." On the bus ride home, Maya couldn't stop thinking about Lucas Hawthorne. There had been something in his eyes when he looked at her, something beyond the cold assessment of an employer catching an employee breaking the rules. For a brief moment, she could have sworn she saw a flicker of recognition, curiosity. Whatever it was, it had kept her employed, at least for now. When Maya arrived at her apartment, she was too tired to cook. She made a sandwich and checked her bank account on her phone. After moving some money around, she could send $200 to Lily for the school trip, but the roof repairs would have to wait. She texted her brother to tell him she'd try to send more money next week. As she got ready for bed, Maya set her alarm for 7 a.m. She would need to look presentable for the staff meeting, more presentable than she'd been today, with cleaning. Solution on her face and sleep lines from the sofa cushions. Despite her exhaustion, sleep didn't come easily. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Lucas Hawthorne's penetrating gaze. There was something mesmerizing about him, not just his obvious good looks or his power, but the intensity he radiated. He seemed like a man who saw everything, missed nothing. Maya had cleaned the homes and hotel rooms of the wealthy for years. She knew their habits, their excesses, their carelessness with the privilege they took for granted. But Lucas Hawthorne hadn't seemed like the typical rich person. There was something different about him, something guarded, something almost lonely. She shook her head at such thoughts. She was being ridiculous. Lucas Hawthorne was one of the richest men in the country. His life was as far removed from hers as the stars were from the earth. Tomorrow's meeting was probably just a formality before her dismissal. With that sobering thought, Maya finally drifted off to sleep, unaware that her life was about to change, in ways she could never have imagined. The next morning, Maya arrived at the hotel an hour early. She'd worn her best blouse under her uniform jacket and had even put on a touch of mascara and lip gloss. She felt silly for making the effort, but the thought of facing Lucas Hawthorne again made her unusually nervous. The grand ballroom had been transformed into a meeting space with rows of chairs facing a podium. Hotel staff from various departments were filtering in, most of them managers and supervisors whom Maya recognized but rarely spoke to. She took a seat in the back row, feeling out of place among the suits and blazers. At precisely 9 a.m., Lucas Hawthorne strode into the room, flanked by 2 assistants. The chatter died immediately. He wore a navy suit today, his presence commanding the room without effort. Maya found herself sitting up straighter. "Good morning," Lucas began, his voice carrying easily through the ballroom. "Thank you all for being here. As you know, I make it a point to visit each of my properties at least once a year. What you may not know is that I use these visits to identify exceptional talent within our organization." He paused, his eyes scanning the room. For a heart-stopping moment, they landed on Maya, and she could have sworn he almost smiled. Then his gaze moved on. "The Hawthorne Group is expanding. We're opening 3 new hotels next year, and we need people who understand our commitment to excellence, people who go above and beyond what is expected of them." As Lucas continued outlining his vision for the company's future, Maya found herself drawn in by his obvious passion for his work. This wasn't a man who had inherited wealth and was simply maintaining it. He clearly cared deeply about what he had built. After the general address, Lucas announced, "I'll be holding individual meetings throughout the day. If your name is called, please report to the executive suite at your designated time." "One of I." His assistants began reading from a list. Maya half listened, certain her name wouldn't be among those called. Then, Maya Thompson, 10:15 a.m. Maya's head snapped up. Around her, several people turned to look, curious about who she was. She felt her cheeks grow warm under their scrutiny. As the meeting dispersed, Rita approached her. Well, it seems you've caught the big boss's attention. What did you do in that royal suite yesterday?" "Nothing," Maya insisted. "I just cleaned it." Rita gave her a skeptical look. "Just be careful, Maya. Men like Lucas Hawthorne don't notice women like us unless they want something." Maya felt a flare of indignation at Rita's implication. "It's not like that. He probably just wants to formally reprimand me for falling asleep." "If you say so," Rita replied, clearly unconvinced. "But if it turns out to be something else, well, just remember that mixing business and pleasure never ends well for the employee." As Rita walked away, Maya checked her watch. It was 9:45 a.m. In half an hour, she would be meeting with Lucas Hawthorne in the executive suite. Whatever his reasons for singling her out, she would soon find out. With butterflies in her stomach, Maya headed to the staff restroom to check her appearance one last time. She had no illusions about why she'd been called to meet with the CEO. This was most likely about yesterday's incident, and the best she could hope for was not to lose her job. Yet, despite her nervousness, she couldn't help but feel a strange excitement at the thought of seeing Lucas Hawthorne again. Those intense blue eyes that seemed to see right through her. She straightened her uniform jacket, took a deep breath, and headed toward the executive suite, unaware that her life was balancing on the edge of transformation. At exactly 10:15 a.m., Maya knocked on the door of the executive suite. Her heart was racing so fast, she was sure anyone nearby could hear it. "Come in," called the now familiar deep voice. Maya entered to find Lucas Hawthorne sitting behind a large desk, his attention focused on a laptop screen. The executive suite was elegantly furnished with leather chairs and dark wood furniture. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city. "Mr. Hawthorne, you wanted to see me?" Maya said, her voice coming out steadier than she expected. Lucas looked up, and for a moment he simply studied her. Then he gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Please, sit down, Miss Thompson." Maya sat, folding her hands in her lap, to keep them from fidgeting. "I've been reviewing your employee file," Lucas said, tapping a folder on his desk. 3 years at the Hawthorne Grand, never late, rarely takes sick days, consistently positive reviews from guests about the cleanliness of their rooms." "Thank you, sir," Maya replied, confused by the direction of the conversation. This didn't sound like a reprimand. "Tell me, Ms. Thompson, are you happy working here?" The question caught her off guard. Yes, of course. It's a good job." "That's not what I asked," Lucas said, leaning forward slightly. "Are you happy?" Maya hesitated. No one had asked her that question in a very long time. "I'm grateful for the work," she finally answered. "It allows me to support my family." Something in Lucas's expression shifted. "Family? Children?" "No. My younger siblings. Our parents died 5 years ago. I'm responsible for them now." Lucas nodded slowly, as if filing this information away. "I admire that dedication, Ms. Thompson. Not many people would sacrifice as much as you clearly have." He stood up suddenly and walked to the window, his back to her. "I have a proposition for you. I need a personal assistant, someone who is detail-oriented, hard-working, and discreet. Based on your work record and what I observed yesterday, I believe you would be excellent in this role." Maya stared at his back, certain she had misheard. "You want me to be your assistant? But I don't have any experience with that kind of work." Lucas turned to face her. "Experience can be gained. The qualities I'm looking for are innate. You have them." He returned to his desk and sat down. "The position pays 3 times your current salary, with benefits and a flexible schedule to accommodate your family responsibilities." Maya felt dizzy. 3 times her current salary would solve so many problems. The roof could be fixed. Lily could go on her school trip. Maybe James could even go to college next year. "Why me?" she asked, unable to stop the question from escaping. For the first time, something like a genuine smile touched Lucas's lips. "Because when I caught you sleeping on a $10,000 sofa in my hotel suite, your first concern wasn't for your job. It was apologizing for the inconvenience you thought you'd caused me. That tells me a lot about your character." Maya felt warmth creep into her cheeks. "I still shouldn't have fallen asleep." "No, you shouldn't have," Lucas agreed. "But given that you had been cleaning for 6 hours straight with no break, I'm willing to overlook it this once." He slid a contract across the desk toward her. "Take this home, read it carefully. If you decide to accept, you'll start Monday morning. The position requires some travel, as I split my time between properties, but as I mentioned, we can work around your family obligations." Maya's hand trembled slightly as she took the contract. This seemed too good to be true. "Mr. Hawthorne, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll consider it." His phone buzzed, and he glanced at it. "I have another meeting now. Do you have any questions before you go?" Maya had 1,000 questions, but only one made it past her lips. "What exactly would I be doing as your assistant?" "Managing my schedule, coordinating with my team across different locations, handling some personal matters, and generally making sure my day runs smoothly." He stood, signaling the end of their meeting. "It's demanding work, Ms. Thompson, but I think you're up to the challenge." As Maya left the executive suite, she felt like she was walking in a dream. This couldn't be happening. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. On her way back to the housekeeping area, Maya ran into Sophia Martinez, one of the front desk managers. Sophia was in her 40s with a kind face and a no-nonsense attitude that had made her Maya's unofficial mentor at the hotel. "There you are," Sophia exclaimed. "Rita told me you had a meeting with Lucas Hawthorne himself. What happened? Are you okay?" "I think so," Maya replied, still dazed. He offered me a job as his personal assistant. Sophia's eyes widened. His PA. Maya, that's incredible. But also, she lowered her voice. Be careful. Lucas Hawthorne has a reputation. What kind of reputation? Maya asked, suddenly concerned. Sophia glanced around to make sure no one was listening. He's brilliant at business, no question, but his personal life is a different story. 2 broken engagements in the past 5 years. They say he's married. To his work. The last assistant quit after 6 months. Nervous breakdown, apparently. Maya's excitement dimmed slightly. Why would he want me for the job if it's so demanding? I have no experience. Who knows? Sophia shrugged. Maybe he saw something in you. Just go into it with your eyes open, okay? And if you need advice, I'm here. Maya thanked Sophia and headed to the locker room to change for her regular shift. As she cleaned rooms that afternoon, her mind kept returning to Lucas Hawthorne's offer. The money would change everything for her family. But was she ready for such a drastic career change? And what about Lucas himself? There was something about him that both intrigued and unnerved her. That evening, Maya sat at her small kitchen table and carefully read through the contract. The terms were generous, even more so than Lucas had indicated. In addition to the salary, there was a housing allowance, health insurance, and a clause about performance bonuses. At the bottom of the last page was his signature, bold and confident. All that was missing was hers. Maya picked up her phone and called home. Her Aunt Teresa answered. Maya, is everything okay? You don't usually call on weeknights. Everything's fine, Tia. How are the kids? All good. James is still talking about colleges. That boy has big dreams. That's actually why I'm calling, Maya said, taking a deep breath. I've been offered a new job. It would pay a lot more, enough for James to go to college and for us to fix the roof and maybe even move to a better place. That's wonderful, Mija. What's the job? Personal assistant to the owner of the hotel chain. There was a pause on the other end. The owner? How did that happen? Maya gave her aunt an abbreviated version of the story, leaving out the part about falling asleep in the royal suite. It sounds like a good opportunity, Teresa said cautiously. But will you be happy, Maya? You've already sacrificed so much for the children. I'll be fine, Tia. This is what I've been working for. A chance to give them a better life. After saying goodbye, Maya signed the contract. Whatever challenges lay ahead, the opportunity was too good to pass up. On Monday morning, Maya arrived at the hotel wearing the best outfit she owned, a simple black dress she'd bought for her parents' funeral and had never worn since. She'd pulled her dark hair back into a neat bun and applied minimal makeup. The receptionist in the executive offices looked surprised to see her, but directed her to a corner office adjacent to Lucas's. Inside, she found a desk with a computer, a phone with multiple lines, and a detailed schedule printed and waiting for her. A few minutes later, Lucas strode in. Today, he wore a light grey suit. That emphasized his broad shoulders. Maya couldn't help but notice how heads turned as he passed, both women and men watching him with a mixture of admiration and fear. Good morning, Ms. Thompson, he said briskly. I see you found your way. Coffee? I can get it for you, Maya offered, standing quickly. Lucas raised an eyebrow. I meant, would you like some coffee? Your job is to assist me, not serve me. There's a difference. Oh, Maya said, feeling her cheeks warm. Yes, coffee would be nice. Thank you. As Lucas stepped out to speak with his secretary, Maya took a deep breath. This was going to be a steep learning curve. The next few hours were a whirlwind of introductions, explanations, and information. Lucas was thorough in his instructions, but clearly expected Maya to keep up without much hand-holding. By lunchtime, her head was spinning with names, procedures, and priorities. We'll be flying to Chicago tonight, Lucas announced as the afternoon wound down. Pack enough for 3 days. The company jet leaves at 8 p.m. Tonight? Maya echoed, panic rising in her chest. I need to make arrangements for my family. Lucas studied her for a moment, then nodded. Fair enough. Make your calls, then meet me at the airport. Martin will email you the details. As soon as Lucas left the office, Maya called her aunt, explaining the sudden trip. Teresa assured her everything would be fine, But Maya couldn't shake the feeling that she was already failing at her new job. She rushed home, threw some clothes into a suitcase, and took a taxi to the private airport where Lucas had instructed her to meet him. The sleek private jet waiting on the tarmac took her breath away. This was a world she'd only seen in movies. Lucas was already aboard when she arrived, working on his laptop at a polished table. He glanced up as she entered. Just in time. We're about to take off. Maya stowed her bag and sat across from him, trying not to look as overwhelmed as she felt. As the jet accelerated down the runway, she gripped the armrests tightly. "First time flying private?" Lucas asked, noticing her tension. "First time flying at all," Maya admitted. Something that might have been surprise flickered across Lucas's face. "Well, you picked a good flight for your first experience. We should have clear skies all the way to Chicago." Once they were airborne, Lucas returned to his work and Maya tried to familiarize herself with the schedule for the Chicago trip. They would be visiting a newly acquired hotel property that was undergoing renovations. "I should warn you," Lucas said without looking up from his laptop, "these inspection visits can be intense. I have high standards for my properties." "I've seen how the Hawthorne Grand is run," Maya replied. "I understand the attention to detail." Lucas closed his laptop and regarded her with that penetrating gaze that seemed to see through all her defenses. "You know, most people in your position would be intimidated right now, yet you seem remarkably composed." Maya smiled slightly. "Mr. Hawthorne, I've been responsible for 3 grieving children since I was 23. I've worked 60-hour weeks scrubbing toilets and making beds for billionaires who couldn't even bother to learn my name. Very little intimidates me anymore." For the first time, Lucas Hawthorne genuinely smiled, a transformation that softened his entire face and made him look years younger. "I made the right choice with you, Ms. Thompson." "Maya," she said impulsively, "if we're going to be working closely together, you might as well call me Maya." Lucas considered this for a moment, then nodded. "Maya it is, and you can call me Lucas. We're not in front of other employees. When they arrived in Chicago, a car was waiting to take them to the Hawthorne Lakeview, the hotel Lucas had recently acquired. Despite the late hour, Lucas insisted on touring the property immediately. As they walked through the half-renovated hotel, Maya was impressed by Lucas's attention to detail. He noticed everything. A light fixture that was crooked, wallpaper that didn't match properly, a door that squeaked. The property manager followed them, taking notes frantically as Lucas pointed out dozens of issues. "The grand staircase will need to be completely redone," Lucas was saying. "The proportions are all wrong." "But sir, that will add weeks to the renovation timeline," the manager protested. Lucas's expression hardened. "If it's not done right, we don't open, period." By the time they finished the tour, it was past midnight. Maya was exhausted, but Lucas seemed energized by the work. "We'll continue tomorrow morning at 7, he told the manager. Before turning to Maya, "Let's get you checked in so you can rest." Their rooms were on the top floor, the only floor that had been fully renovated. Maya's suite was larger than her entire apartment back home. "Is this really all for me?" she asked, looking around in awe at the luxurious space. "You're part of my executive team now," Lucas replied. "This is standard accommodation." As he turned to leave, Maya called after him. "Lucas?" He paused at the doorway. "Thank you for this opportunity. I promise I won't let you down." Something unreadable passed through his eyes. "I know you won't, Maya. Good night." The next morning, Maya woke early and prepared for the day. Selecting one of the few professional outfits she owned, a simple blouse and pencil skirt. She met Lucas in the hotel restaurant for breakfast, finding him already reviewing documents at a corner table. "I've been thinking about the renovation issues," he said as soon as she sat down, not bothering with a greeting. "We need to replace the project manager. He's clearly not up to Hawthorne standards." "That seems harsh," Maya replied before she could stop herself. "Everyone deserves a chance to improve." Lucas looked up, surprised by her candor. "This isn't a charity, Maya. It's a business. Excellence isn't optional." "I understand that," she said carefully. "But firing him without warning will destroy morale among the other workers. Why not give him clear expectations and a deadline? If he fails to meet them, then replace him." Lucas studied her for a long moment, and Maya feared she'd overstepped. Then he nodded slowly. A reasonable suggestion, we'll try it your way. Throughout the day, Maya watched as Lucas drove his team hard, demanding perfection in every aspect of the renovation. Yet she also noticed how he took her suggestion to heart, giving the project manager specific expectations rather than simply dismissing him. That evening, after another long day of inspections, Lucas surprised her by suggesting they have dinner together at a small Italian restaurant near the hotel. "You've done well today," he said as they were seated at a quiet corner table. "Most new assistants don't last through the first day of an inspection tour." "It's been educational," Maya replied diplomatically. Lucas smiled, seeing through her polite response. "You mean you've learned I'm demanding and difficult to work for?" "I already knew that," Maya said, returning his smile. "Your reputation precedes you. And yet you took the job anyway. The benefits outweighed the risks." Lucas raised his water glass in a mock toast to rational decision-making. As they ate, the conversation shifted away from work. Lucas asked about her siblings, and Maya found herself sharing stories about James's academic ambitions, Lily's artistic talents, and young Miguel's passion for soccer. "You've sacrificed a lot for them," Lucas observed. "They're my family," Maya said simply. "What about your family? Do you have siblings?" A shadow passed over Lucas's face. "A younger brother. We're not close." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Don't be. Some relationships aren't worth salvaging." There was such finality in his tone that Maya didn't press further. Instead, she asked about his early days building the hotel chain. Lucas spoke of long hours, countless setbacks, and the satisfaction of creating something lasting. As he talked, Maya saw glimpses of the passion that drove him, the same passion that made him so demanding of others. "You really love what you do," she observed. "It's all I have," he replied, then quickly added, "professionally speaking, as a knee." They walked back to the hotel after dinner. A comfortable silence settled between them. Maya stole glances at Lucas's profile in the moonlight. He was undeniably handsome, but it was the complexity beneath the surface that intrigued her most, the unexpected moments of vulnerability breaking through his controlled exterior. Back at the hotel, Lucas walked her to her suite. At the door, he hesitated. "Thank you for your input today. It's refreshing to have someone willing to challenge me when necessary." "Even when I disagree with you?" Maya asked. "Especially then," Lucas replied, his blue eyes intense in the dim hallway lighting. "Good night, Maya." As she closed the door behind her, Maya leaned against it, her heart beating faster than normal. What was happening here? This morning, Lucas Hawthorne had been her intimidating new boss. Now, after just one day, she felt a connection forming between them, something that went beyond a professional relationship. She shook her head, trying to dismiss such thoughts. Lucas Hawthorne lived in a world completely different from hers. Whatever she thought she was feeling was simply the result of being thrust into his glamorous lifestyle. Yet as Maya prepared for bed in her luxury suite, she couldn't stop thinking about the way Lucas had looked at her during dinner, as if he was truly seeing her, not just as an assistant, but as a person with thoughts and feelings that mattered. "Be careful," she whispered to herself in the mirror. "Don't confuse kindness for something more." But even as she said the words, Maya knew it might already be too late. Lucas Hawthorne had swept into her life like a force of nature, and she was being pulled into his orbit, whether she wanted to be or not. The Chicago trip lasted another day, and then they were flying back home. Within weeks, Maya had settled into a routine as Lucas's personal assistant. The job was demanding, early mornings, late nights, and constant travel, but the rewards were worth it. For the first time in years, she wasn't living paycheck to paycheck. She had already sent money for the roof repairs and Lily's school trip. She'd even started a college fund for James. Best of all, she'd been able to visit her siblings twice in the past month, something that had been nearly impossible with her previous work schedule. The only downside was Lucas himself, not because he was difficult to work for, although he certainly could be, but because Maya found herself thinking about him far too often. The way his eyes crinkled slightly when he was actually amused rather than just being polite. The rare occasions when he truly smiled. The surprising gentleness he showed when speaking about his charitable foundation for foster children. "Earth to Maya," came a voice, snapping her out of her thoughts. Maya looked up to see Sophia standing in the doorway of her office. They had remained friends even after Maya's promotion, meeting occasionally for coffee when Maya was in town. "Sorry, I was just reviewing the Tokyo itinerary," Maya lied, quickly clicking away from the email she had been staring at blankly for the past 5 minutes. Sophia smirked. "Sure you were. It wouldn't have anything to do with the way your boss keeps finding excuses to have working dinners with you, would it?" "It's not like that," Maya insisted, feeling heat rise to her cheeks. "Lucas, Mr. Hawthorne, is just focused on the new property in Tokyo. We have a lot to discuss." Sophia hummed skeptically. "Just be careful, Maya. I've worked here long enough to see how these things usually end." "There's nothing to be careful about," Maya replied, more sharply than she intended. "We have a professional relationship, that's all." Sophia raised her hands in surrender. Okay. I'm just looking out for you." She changed the subject. "Are you excited about the charity gala tomorrow night?" The annual Hawthorne Foundation Gala was one of the biggest charity events of the year. As Lucas's assistant, Maya had been deeply involved in the planning, but she hadn't expected to attend. "I'm not going," Maya said. "I'll be coordinating from behind the scenes." Sophia's eyebrows shot up. "Really? Because there's a rumor going around that Lucas specifically requested you be there. That can't be right." Just then, Lucas walked in, his phone pressed to his ear. He nodded acknowledgement to Sophia, who quickly excused herself. "I don't care what it costs," Lucas was saying into the phone. "If that's what it takes to close the deal, then do it." He ended the call and turned to Maya. "Did the dress arrive?" Maya blinked in confusion. "What dress?" "For the gala tomorrow. I had my stylist select something. It should have been delivered this morning." Maya stared at him. "You want me to attend the gala?" "Of course," Lucas replied, as if it were obvious. "You've done most of the work organizing it. You should be there to see it come together." "But I've never been to something like that. I wouldn't know how to act or what to say." Lucas's expression softened slightly. "You'll be fine, just be yourself." He glanced at his watch. "I have a meeting with the board in 5 minutes. We'll discuss the Tokyo trip afterward." After he left, Maya sat in stunned silence. Hawthorne Foundation Gala was an exclusive event attended by celebrities, politicians, and the ultra-wealthy. The thought of mingling with such people made her stomach twist with anxiety. When Maya arrived home that evening, a large box was waiting for her. Inside was the most beautiful dress she had ever seen, a floor-length gown in deep blue with delicate silver beading. A note attached read, "The car will pick you up at 7 p.m. tomorrow." Maya carefully lifted the dress out of the box. Just looking at it made her feel like an imposter. This wasn't her world. She didn't belong among the glittering elite who would be attending the gala. Yet as she held the dress against herself in the mirror, a small part of her couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to step into that world for just one night, to stand beside Lucas not as his assistant, but as his guest. The following evening, Maya spent more time getting ready than she ever had in her life. She styled her hair in an elegant updo and applied her makeup carefully, following a tutorial she'd found online. When she finally slipped into the blue gown, she barely recognized herself in the mirror. At precisely 7 p.m., a sleek black car pulled up outside her apartment building. The driver opened the door for her, and Maya stepped in, trying to move gracefully despite her nervous trembling. The gala was being held at the Hawthorne Grand's magnificent ballroom. As the car approached the hotel, Maya could see a red carpet leading to the entrance lined with photographers. Her anxiety spiked. She hadn't considered that there would be photos. The car stopped and the driver opened her door. Maya stepped out, immediately blinded by camera flashes. She froze, uncertain where to go or what to do. "Maya." She turned to find Lucas standing beside her, looking devastatingly handsome in a classic black tuxedo. He offered his arm. "You look beautiful," he said quietly, "for her ears only." Maya slipped her hand into the crook of his elbow, grateful for his steady presence. "Thank you for the dress. It's gorgeous." "The dress is just fabric," Lucas replied, his eyes meeting hers. What makes it beautiful?" The sincerity in his voice made Maya's heart skip a beat. Before she could respond, they were moving down the red carpet, Lucas expertly guiding her past the photographers and into the ballroom. The space had been transformed into a winter wonderland, with thousands of twinkling lights and ice sculptures. On every table, Maya had seen the plans, of course, but the reality was breathtaking. "What do you think?" Lucas asked, watching her reaction. "It's magical," she replied honestly. Throughout the evening, Lucas kept Maya by his side as he greeted guests and made speeches about the foundation's work. She was surprised by how at ease he seemed in this environment, warm and charming, so different from his usual intense focus at work. "He's different with you," observed an elegant older woman who introduced herself as Evelyn, a long-time board member of the foundation. "I've known Lucas for years and I've never seen him so attentive to anyone. We work closely together," Maya explained, uncomfortable with the implication. Evelyn smiled knowingly. "My dear, I've seen plenty of people work closely with Lucas. Hawthorne, none of them made him look at them the way he looks at you." Before Maya could respond, a commotion near the entrance caught her attention. A young man who bore a striking resemblance to Lucas had arrived, clearly intoxicated and making a scene. Lucas tensed beside her. "Excuse me," he said tightly, striding toward the disruption. That would be Daniel, Lucas's younger brother. Evelyn sighed. The family disappointment. Maya watched as Lucas confronted the younger man, speaking in low, urgent tones. Whatever he said only seemed to anger Daniel, who raised his voice. "You think you're so perfect, don't you?" Daniel shouted, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "St. Lucas saving the world one charity at a time. If only they knew what you're really like." Lucas gripped his brother's arm and forcibly escorted him out of the ballroom. The guests pretended not to notice, conversations resuming with deliberate normality. Maya hesitated, then followed them into the corridor. She found Lucas and Daniel in a heated argument. "You need help, Daniel," Lucas was saying, his voice strained. "This can't continue." "What I need is my inheritance," Daniel slurred. "But you've made sure I'll never see a cent of it, haven't you?" "You know that's not true. The trust fund stipulations were Father's decision, not mine." Daniel laughed bitterly. "And you never influenced him at all, did you?" "Perfect Lucas, the son who could do no wrong." "Go home, Daniel, you're drunk." "I'm not done talking to you." "Yes, you are," Lucas said firmly. "My driver will take you home. We'll discuss this when you're sober." Daniel glared at him, but finally allowed himself to be led away by security. Lucas stood motionless, his back to Maya, shoulders rigid with tension. "Lucas," she said softly, "are you okay?" He turned, and the raw pain in his eyes made her heart ache. For a moment he looked surprised to see her, as if he'd forgotten where they were. Then his expression shuttered, the familiar mask of control slipping back into place. "I'm fine, I apologize you had to witness that." "You don't need to apologize," Maya said. "He's your brother, family is complicated." Lucas's jaw tightened. "Daniel makes it his mission to be as complicated as possible." He offered his arm again. "We should return to the gala." For the rest of the evening, Lucas was the perfect host, charming, attentive, generous. But Maya noticed the strain around his eyes, the way his smile never quite reached them anymore. When he thought no one was watching, the mask slipped, revealing a profound weariness. As the event wound down, Lucas turned to her. "You must be tired. I'll have the car take you home." "What about you?" Maya asked. "I have some matters to attend to here." She hesitated, then placed her hand gently on his arm. "Lucas, I know it's not my place, but if you want to talk about what happened with your brother, I'm a good listener." Something flickered in his eyes, vulnerability perhaps, or longing. Then it was gone. "Thank you, Maya, but that won't be necessary. I'll see you on Monday." The dismissal stung more than it should have. Maya nodded and walked away, the magical evening suddenly feeling hollow. The weekend passed slowly. Maya spent much of it thinking about Lucas, not just the confident, commanding businessman she worked for, but the man she'd glimpsed in rare, unguarded moments. The man who carried pain he refused to share. On Monday morning, She arrived at the office to find Lucas already working, looking as if he hadn't slept all weekend. "Good morning," she said cautiously. "How are you?" "Fine," he replied without looking up from his computer. "The Tokyo trip needs to be moved up. We leave Wednesday. Please make the arrangements." And just like that, they were back to being strictly professional. Throughout the day, Lucas was all business, efficient, focused, and completely closed off. When Maya tried to mention the gala, he changed the subject. That night, as she packed for Tokyo, Maya couldn't stop thinking about Evelyn's words. "I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you." Had she imagined the connection between them? Was she just another employee to Lucas, despite what others observed? The trip to Tokyo was tense. Lucas worked constantly, taking calls at all hours and barely speaking to Maya except about business matters. They were touring the site of the new Hawthorne Hotel, a historic building being renovated into a luxury property. On their third day in Tokyo, they were walking through the half-finished lobby when Lucas's phone rang. His expression darkened as he answered it. "When?" he demanded, his voice tight. "Is he—" "I understand. Make the arrangements. I'll be on the next flight." He ended the call and turned to Maya, his face pale. "We need to return home immediately. Daniel has been in an accident." The next few hours were a blur of activity, cancelling meetings, booking flights, coordinating with the hospital. On the long flight back, Lucas was silent, staring out the window into the darkness. "He'll be okay," Maya said softly, trying to offer comfort. Lucas didn't look at her. "The doctors aren't sure. He was driving drunk, hit a tree. He's in critical condition." "I'm so sorry, Lucas." He shook his head. "I should have done more. I knew he was spiraling, but I was too angry. It's after the gala to reach out. This isn't your fault, isn't it?" His voice was bitter. "I'm the older brother. I was supposed to protect him." Maya wanted to reach for his hand, but hesitated. Despite their growing closeness, there were still boundaries between them, lines she wasn't sure she should cross. But seeing his pain, she couldn't remain distant. She placed her hand over his. "Whatever happened between you two, I know you care about him." That's what matters now. Lucas looked down at their joined hands, then up at her face. The raw emotion in his eyes took her breath away. "Maya," he said, his voice rough, "I don't know what I would do without you." The words hung between them, loaded with meaning neither of them was ready to acknowledge. When they arrived at the hospital, Daniel was in surgery. Lucas paced the waiting room, tense and silent. Maya stayed with him, making calls when necessary but otherwise simply being a reassuring presence. Hours later, a doctor approached them. "Mr. Hawthorne, your brother is stable. He's got a long recovery ahead, but he should pull through." The relief on Lucas's face was profound. "Can I see him? He's still unconscious, but yes, briefly." Lucas turned to Maya. "Will you come with me?" She was surprised by the request, but nodded. They followed the doctor to the ICU, where Daniel lay connected to various machines, his face bruised and swollen. Lucas moved to his brother's side and took his hand. "I'm here, Danny," he said softly, using a nickname Maya had never heard before. "I'm not going anywhere." The tenderness in his voice brought tears to Maya's eyes. This was yet another side of Lucas Hawthorne, the protective older brother beneath, the stern businessman. They stayed at the hospital all night. When Daniel finally regained consciousness the next morning, Lucas insisted on speaking to him alone. Maya waited outside, giving them privacy for their reunion. When Lucas finally emerged, his expression was lighter than it had been in days. "He's going to be okay," he said, the relief evident in his voice. "And he's agreed to enter rehab after his recovery." "That's wonderful news," Maya replied sincerely. Lucas ran a hand through his hair, looking suddenly exhausted. "I need to make arrangements for his care and treatment. Can you handle things at the office for the rest of the day?" "Of course, take all the time you need." As Maya turned to leave, Lucas caught her hand. "Maya." She looked back at him. "Thank you for everything." The genuine gratitude in his eyes made her heart flutter. "That's what friends are for," she said softly. "Is that what we are?" "Friends?" Lucas asked, his gaze intense. Before she could answer, a nurse approached to speak with him about Daniel's treatment plan. The moment was lost, but the question lingered in Maya's mind as she headed back to the office. Were they friends? The relationship between them had shifted so gradually that Maya couldn't pinpoint when Lucas had become more than just her boss. But friends didn't seem to capture the electricity that sparked between them when their eyes met, or the way her heart raced when he stood close to her. Over the next few weeks, Lucas split his time between the office and the hospital as Daniel recovered. Maya took on more responsibilities, stepping up to keep things running smoothly in Lucas's partial absence. He seemed to trust her implicitly, giving her authority to make decisions that would normally have required his approval. One evening, as they were working late in his office, Lucas suddenly said, "Daniel asked about you today." Maya looked up in surprise. He did. He wanted to know who the pretty assistant was who stayed at the hospital that night. Lucas's lips quirked in a half-smile. He also asked if we were together. Maya's heart skipped a beat. "What did you tell him?" Lucas set down the document he'd been reviewing and met her gaze directly. "I told him the truth, that you're the most remarkable woman I've ever met, and that I'd be a fool not to recognize that." Maya felt heat rush to her face. "Lucas, No," he said quickly. "I'm your boss. There are 1,000 reasons why anything between us would be complicated, but I can't pretend I don't feel something for you, Maya. Something I haven't felt for anyone before." The confession hung in the air between them. Maya searched for words, her mind racing. I don't know what to say." Lucas smiled sadly. "You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know." He stood, gathering his things. "It's late. We should both get some rest." As he walked her to the elevator, an uncomfortable silence settled between them. Maya's thoughts were in turmoil. She couldn't deny her feelings for Lucas, but she'd been fighting them so hard, convinced that anything between them would be impossible. At the elevator, Lucas pressed the call button and stepped back. "Maya," he said softly, "whatever you're thinking right now, know that nothing has to change. Your job is secure, regardless of how you respond to what I've said." The elevator arrived, the doors sliding open. Maya stepped inside, then turned to face him. "Lucas, I get some sleep," he interrupted gently. "We'll talk tomorrow." As the doors closed, Maya leaned against the wall, her heart pounding. Lucas Hawthorne had just admitted he had feelings for her, her boss, a billionaire. A man who lived in a world so different from her own that it might as well have been another planet. And yet, as the elevator descended, Maya couldn't ignore the truth that had been growing in her heart for weeks now. Despite all the reasons it couldn't work, despite the risks and complications, she was falling in love with Lucas Hawthorne. The question was, what was she going to do about it? Maya barely slept that night, replaying Lucas's words over and over in her mind. By morning, she had made a decision. She would be honest with him about her feelings, but she would also be realistic about the challenges they would face. She arrived at the office early, determined to have this conversation before she lost her nerve. But Lucas wasn't there. The message from him said he'd been called to an emergency meeting with the board and would be gone most of the day. Disappointed but somewhat relieved for the reprieve, Maya threw herself into work. Around noon, Sophia stopped by her office. "Have you seen the news?" Sophia asked, her expression concerned. "No, why?" Sophia handed her a tablet displaying a gossip website. The headline made Maya's stomach drop. "Hawthorne heir finds love with former maid?" Below was a photo of her and Lucas at the charity gala, his hand on the small of her back as he guided her through the crowd. The article was filled with speculation about their relationship, including quotes from anonymous sources claiming Maya had seduced Lucas to advance her career. "It's not true," Maya said, her voice shaking. "We haven't. It's not like that." Sophia squeezed her shoulder. "I know that, but people love to gossip, especially about men like Lucas Hawthorne." Just then Maya's phone rang. It was Lucas. "Have you seen it?" he asked without preamble, his voice tight. "Yes, just now." "Lucas, I'm so sorry. You have nothing to apologize." For this is exactly why I've always kept my private life out of the media. He sighed heavily. The board is concerned about the optics. They've called an emergency meeting for this afternoon. The board? Maya felt sick. This could affect your position as CEO? Don't worry about that. I need you to stay out of sight today. Work from home if possible. I'll handle this. But, Maya, please trust me on this. I'll call you later. The line went dead, leaving Maya staring at her phone in disbelief. Everything was unraveling so quickly. Just when she had been ready to explore the possibility of a relationship with Lucas, the world had intervened in the worst possible way. She gathered her things and left the office, keeping her head down to avoid curious stares from co-workers. In the safety of her apartment, she tried to focus on work emails, but her mind kept returning to the tabloid story and what it might mean for both her and Lucas. Hours passed with no word from him. Maya checked her phone constantly, growing more anxious with each passing minute. Finally, as evening approached, there was a knock at her door. She opened it to find Lucas standing there, looking tired but resolute. "May I come in?" he asked. Maya stepped aside to let him enter, suddenly conscious of her small, modest apartment. Lucas looked around briefly, then turned to face her. "The board meeting is over," he said. "They wanted me to issue a statement, denying any personal relationship between us." Maya's heart sank. "I understand it's the sensible thing to do." "That's what I told them," Lucas continued. "But then I realized something. I'm tired of being sensible when it comes to my personal life. I'm tired of letting fear of public opinion dictate my choices." He moved closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "So instead, I told them the truth, that I'm falling in love with you, Maya Thompson, and that if they have a problem with that, they can find themselves a new CEO." Maya stared at him, stunned. "You, what? Lucas, you can't risk your company for you," he finished, taking her hands in his. "Yes, I can. Because without you, none of it means anything anymore." Tears welled in Maya's eyes. "But what about the gossip? The things they're saying about me, about us?" "Let them talk," Lucas said firmly. "The people who matter know the truth. And the truth is, I've never felt this way about anyone before." He reached up to gently wipe a tear from her cheek. "I know this is sudden. I know there are 1,000 reasons why this might not work. But I'm willing to take that chance if you..." Maya looked into his eyes, seeing the vulnerability and hope there. All the doubts and fears she'd been harboring seemed to fade in the face of the simple truth. She loved this man, complicated as he was. "I'm falling in love with you too," she whispered. "I've been fighting it because it seemed impossible. You're Lucas Hawthorne, and I'm just..." "Don't," he interrupted fiercely. "Don't ever say you're just anything. You're the most genuine, loyal, courageous woman I've ever known. You're exactly who I need, Maya." And then he was kissing her, his lips gentle but insistent against hers. Maya melted into his embrace, all her reservations dissolving in the warmth of his touch. For this moment, at least, nothing else mattered. Not the gossip, not the differences in their backgrounds, not the complications that surely lay ahead. When they finally broke apart, Lucas rested his forehead against hers. "So," he said softly, "what happens now?" Maya smiled up at him, her heart full. "Now," she replied, "we figure it out together, one day at a time." Outside her apartment, the city lights twinkled in the gathering darkness. Maya knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges. More gossip, more scrutiny, more obstacles to overcome. But for tonight, in Lucas's arms, she allowed herself to believe that their love was strong enough to weather whatever storms might come. Because sometimes fairy tales did come true. Sometimes the maid really did capture the heart of the prince. And sometimes love was worth every risk. The morning sunshine filtered through Maya's curtains, waking her gently. For a moment she kept her eyes closed, savoring the warmth of Lucas's arm draped over her waist. It had been 3 months since their first kiss in her apartment, and still, she sometimes couldn't believe this was real. "You're thinking too loudly," Lucas murmured against her hair. "I can practically hear the wheels turning." Maya turned in his arms to face him, smiling at his sleepy blue eyes. "I was just thinking how lucky I am." "I'm the lucky one," he replied, pulling her closer. Their relationship had progressed quickly after that first kiss. Within weeks, they were practically inseparable. The media attention had been intense at first, photographers following them, gossip columns speculating about their relationship, but Lucas had weathered it all with a calm determination that impressed Maya. "We should get up," she said reluctantly. "You have that meeting with the investors at 9. Lucas groaned. "Being responsible is overrated," says the man who built a billion-dollar hotel empire by age 35. He chuckled, then grew serious. "Speaking of responsibility, have you thought more about what we discussed?" Maya knew exactly what he was referring to. Last week, Lucas had suggested she move into his penthouse. She had hesitated, not because she didn't want to live with him, but because such a step felt momentous. "I have," she admitted, "and I'm still not sure. It's a big step, Lucas. Is it the penthouse? Because we could find somewhere new, somewhere that would be ours together." Maya sat up, pulling the sheet around her. "It's not about the place. It's about making sure we're not rushing into things. Everything has happened so fast between us." Lucas sat up too, running a hand through his tousled hair. "When you know, Maya. I've never been more certain of anything in my life." "I love you," she said softly. "That's not in question. But there's still so much we're figuring out, like my job, for instance." After their relationship became public, Maya had stepped down as Lucas's personal assistant to avoid any appearance of impropriety. She now worked directly for the Hawthorne Foundation, overseeing charitable initiatives. She loved the work, but sometimes missed being part of Lucas's daily routine. "The foundation needs you," Lucas said. "You've done amazing things there already." "I know, and I love it. But sometimes I feel like our worlds are still so separate." Lucas took her hand. "Then let's bring them together. Move in with me. Be part of every aspect of my life, not just evenings and weekends." Maya looked at him, at the earnestness in his eyes, and felt her resistance weakening. "Okay," she said finally. "Let's do it." The smile that lit up Lucas's face made her heart skip. "Really? Really? But I want to keep paying my rent until the lease is up, just to have my own space for a little while longer. In case this falls apart," Lucas finished, a hint of hurt in his voice. "In case I need to remember who I am outside of us," Maya corrected gently. "This relationship has changed my life in so many ways, Lucas. Sometimes I need to remind myself that I'm still Maya Thompson, the girl who worked 60-hour weeks cleaning hotel rooms to support her family." Lucas's expression softened. "I understand, and I love that about you, that you never forget where you came from." They sealed the agreement with a kiss, and then it really was time to get up and face the day. As they got ready for work, moving around each other with the easy familiarity of a couple who had been together much longer than a few months, Maya felt a quiet contentment settle over her. Despite all the changes in her life, this, being with Lucas, felt right. At the foundation office, Maya was reviewing grant applications when her phone rang. It was James, her younger brother. "Hey, what's up?" she answered, smiling. "Shouldn't you be in class?" "It's lunchtime," James replied. "I wanted to tell you the news before anyone else. I got in, Maya. Stanford accepted me." Maya's hand flew to her mouth. "James, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you." "It's all because of you," her brother said, his voice thick with emotion. "I never would have even applied if you hadn't encouraged me. And the financial aid package they offered is amazing." "You did this yourself," Maya insisted. "All I did was believe in you." After they hung up, Maya sat at her desk, joy and pride washing over her. James had worked so hard for this opportunity. All her sacrifices over the years had been worth it to give her siblings a chance at their dreams. She texted Lucas the news, knowing he'd share in her excitement. He replied immediately, "That's wonderful, we should celebrate. Dinner at your brother's favorite restaurant this weekend." Maya smiled. That was Lucas, always thinking of others, always generous with his time and resources when it came to the people she loved. Her family had been understandably wary when they first learned she was dating her billionaire boss. Teresa, in particular, had warned Maya to be careful. reminding her that people from such different worlds rarely found lasting happiness together. But Lucas had won them over with his sincerity and the genuine interest he took in their lives. He never made Maya's siblings feel like charity cases, never acted superior or condescending. Instead, he asked James about his college applications, discussed art with Lily, and even attended Miguel's soccer games when his schedule allowed. "He really loves you," Teresa had said in wonder after Lucas had spent a weekend at their modest home, sleeping on the pull-out sofa without a single complaint. "I really love him too," Maya had replied, watching as Lucas helped Miguel practice. Penalty kicks in the backyard. The memory warmed her as she returned to her work. Yes, moving in with Lucas was the right decision. They were building something real together, something that bridged their different worlds rather than being defined by them. That evening, as Maya packed some of her belongings to move to Lucas's penthouse, she came across a photo album she hadn't looked at in years. Inside were pictures of her parents, smiling, vibrant, alive. She sat on her bed, tears welling as she turned the pages. "I wish you could have met him," she whispered to their images. "I think you would have liked him once you got past all the money stuff." A knock at her door startled her. She quickly wiped her eyes and went to answer it, surprised to find Lucas standing there. He wasn't supposed to come over until tomorrow to help with the move. "Hey," she said. "I wasn't expecting you tonight." Lucas held up a takeout bag. "I thought you might want dinner while you pack." His smile faded as he noticed her reddened eyes. "You've been crying." "What's wrong?" Maya let him in, gesturing to the photo album on the bed. "Just getting a bit emotional over old pictures." Lucas sat beside her, gently taking the album. "Are these your parents?" Maya nodded, pointing to a photo of a laughing couple at a beach. That was their anniversary trip the year before the accident. They were married for 20 years. "You have your mother's smile," Lucas observed softly, "and your father's eyes." Everyone always said that. Maya leaned against his shoulder. "I miss them so much sometimes, especially at moments like this, big life changes. They would have had so much advice about us moving in together." Lucas wrapped an arm around her. "What do you think they would have said?" Maya considered this. "Mom would have told me to make sure we had clear boundaries and expectations. Dad would have made some joke about not letting you get away with leaving wet towels on the bathroom floor." She smiled at the thought, "but mostly they would have been happy that I found someone who treats me well." "I'll do my best to live up to their expectations," Lucas promised, "including the wet towels part." Maya laughed, grateful for his understanding. This was one of the things she loved most about Lucas, his ability to meet her exactly where she was emotionally, without trying to fix or dismiss her feelings. They ate dinner sitting cross-legged on her bed, sharing stories about their parents. It was the first time Lucas had opened up about his own family, beyond the complicated relationship with his brother. "My father was a hard man," he admitted. "Everything was about appearances and success. Nothing Daniel or I ever did was quite good enough." "And your mother?" Maya asked. "She died when I was 12. Cancer." Lucas's voice softened. "She was the warmth in our family. After she was gone, the house felt like a mausoleum. My father buried himself in work, and Daniel and I were left to essentially raise ourselves." "That explains a lot," Maya said, thinking of the walls Lucas had built around himself, the difficulty he had letting people in. "Thank you for telling me." He squeezed her hand. "You make it easy to talk about things I've spent years avoiding." The next day, Maya moved the first batch of her belongings to Lucas's penthouse. Standing in his massive closet, which was now partly hers, she felt a momentary panic. What was she doing? Could she really fit into this world of luxury and privilege? "Second thoughts?" Lucas asked, coming up behind her. "Just a moment of imposter syndrome," Maya admitted. "Sometimes I still feel like I should be cleaning this place, not living in it." Lucas turned her to face him. "This is your home now, Maya. Ours. And you belong here as much as I do." Over the following weeks, they settled into a routine. Maya added personal touches to the penthouse. Family photos, colorful throw pillows, books that didn't match the sleek decor but meant something to her. Lucas welcomed every change, saying the place finally felt like a home. There were adjustments, of course. Maya wasn't used to the constant presence of staff, a housekeeper, a personal chef, security personnel. Lucas wasn't accustomed to someone questioning his spending habits or insisting they sometimes cook dinner themselves instead of ordering in. But with each compromise, each minor disagreement resolved through honest conversation, their relationship grew stronger. Maya found herself thinking of the future, a future with Lucas that once would have seemed impossibly far-fetched. One particularly beautiful Saturday, Lucas suggested they take a drive along the coast. It was a perfect day, sunshine, a gentle breeze, the kind of weather that made everything seem more vibrant and alive. They stopped at a secluded beach, one of Lucas's favorite spots from his childhood. As they walked along the shore, Maya marveled at how peaceful it was, how far removed from their busy lives in the city. "I used to come here with my mother," Lucas said, his voice distant with memory. "After she got sick, when she still had good days, she would ask the driver to bring us here. We'd sit for hours just watching the waves." Maya squeezed his hand, honored that he would share such a personal place with her. They found a spot on the sand and sat together, watching the ocean. Lucas seemed quieter than usual, almost nervous. Maya bumped his shoulder playfully. "Penny, for your thoughts?" "They're worth considerably more than that," he replied with a small smile. Then he took a deep breath. "Maya, these past few months have been the happiest of my life." "Mine too," she said softly. "Before I met you, I thought I had everything figured out. My work was my life. I didn't need anything or anyone else." He turned to face her fully. "But you changed that. You showed me what I was missing. Connection, compassion, love that asks for nothing in return." Maya felt her heart begin to race as Lucas reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I brought you here because this place represents some of my happiest memories from childhood, and now I want it to be part of our story too." He opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring. "Maya Thompson, will you marry me?" Maya stared at the ring, then at Lucas's face, hopeful, vulnerable, so full of love. Tears filled her eyes. "Lucas?" A flicker of uncertainty crossed his features. "Is it too soon? We can wait if you're not ready." "No," Maya said quickly, wiping away a tear. "It's not that. It's just..." "Are you sure? Marriage is a huge step, and we come from such different worlds." "I've never been more sure of anything," Lucas replied, taking her hand. "Our different backgrounds don't matter, Maya. What matters is how we feel about each other, the life we want to build together." Maya looked into his eyes and saw her future there. Challenges, yes, but also joy, partnership, and a love that had already overcome so many obstacles. "Yes," she said, her voice steady and clear. "Yes, I'll marry you." Lucas's face lit up with a smile brighter than she'd ever seen. He slipped the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit, like so many aspects of their relationship that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. As he pulled her into his arms, kissing her with all the passion and tenderness she'd come to cherish, Maya felt the last of her doubts fade away. This was right. This was where she belonged. Later, as they drove back to the city, Maya couldn't stop looking at her ring, not because of its obvious value, but because of what it represented. A promise, a future, a love that had surprised them both. "We should call your family," Lucas said. "And Daniel, I want them to hear the news from us." Maya smiled at his thoughtfulness. "They're going to be so excited, especially Lily. She's been dropping hints about being a bridesmaid since our third date." Lucas laughed. "She can be maid of honor if she wants. Whatever makes you happy makes me happy." When they arrived home, Maya suggested they make the calls right away. She couldn't wait to share their joy with the people they loved. James shouted with excitement when he heard the news. Lily squealed so loudly that Maya had to hold the phone away from her ear. Miguel, now 13 and trying to sound grown-up, offered his formal congratulations before asking if Lucas would let him drive one of his sports cars when he got his learner's permit. Teresa was emotional but supportive. "You deserve all this." "Happiness, Misha," she said. "I see how he looks at you. That man adores you." Daniel, to Maya's surprise, seemed genuinely pleased. His relationship with Lucas had improved tremendously since his accident and subsequent recovery. He was 6 months sober now and working part-time at the Hawthorne Foundation. "About time my brother locked you down," he joked. "You're the best thing that ever happened to him, Maya. I've never seen him this happy." After the calls, Lucas opened a bottle of champagne, and they toasted their engagement on the penthouse balcony, the city lights twinkling below them like their own private constellation. "What are you thinking?" Lucas asked, noticing Maya's contemplative expression. "I'm thinking about how unlikely all this is," she replied honestly. "A year ago I was cleaning hotel rooms, barely making ends meet, and now you're going to be my wife," Lucas finished, pulling her close. "The most remarkable woman I've ever known. I was going to say, and now I'm drinking champagne that probably costs more than my first car," Maya teased. "But your version is nice too." Lucas laughed, the deep, genuine laugh that had once been so rare, but now came easily and often. "That's why I love you. You never let me forget what really matters." As they stood together looking out at the city where their story had begun, Maya felt a profound sense of gratitude. Life had dealt her some difficult cards, losing her parents, struggling to support her siblings, working jobs that left her exhausted and undervalued. But those challenges had shaped her into the person Lucas fell in love with, just as his own struggles had shaped him. They were two people from different worlds who had found in each other exactly what they needed, not wealth or status or security, but understanding, acceptance, and a love that saw beyond surface differences to the heart of who they truly were. "I love you," Maya whispered, resting her head against his chest. "Not because of any of this," she gestured at the luxurious surroundings, "but because of who you are when none of it matters." "And who is that?" Lucas asked softly. "The man who sat on my lumpy sofa eating takeout while looking at old photos of my parents. The man who plays soccer with my little brother. The man who sees me, really sees me, when most of the world never did." Lucas tightened his arms around her. "And I love you because you remind me every day that the most valuable things in life can't be bought. Trust, loyalty, the kind of love that makes you a better person just by experiencing it." Maya looked up at him, this man who had quite literally swept her into his arms the day he found her sleeping in his hotel suite. Who would have thought that moment of mortification would lead to this, a love so deep and true it had transformed both their lives? "So, Mrs. Soon-to-be Hawthorne," Lucas said, his eyes dancing with happiness, "what do you want to do first as an engaged couple?" Maya pretended to consider the question. "Well, Mr. Soon-to-be, my husband, I think we should start by you kissing me under the stars. That," Lucas replied, lowering his lips to hers, "is a request I'll happily fulfill, tonight and every night for the rest of our lives." As their lips met, Maya knew with absolute certainty that this was just the beginning of their story. There would be challenges ahead, adjustments to make, perhaps even more gossip to weather, but none of it mattered as long as they faced it together, because love, real love, didn't care about wealth or status or where you came from. It only cared about where you were going and who you chose to walk beside you on the journey. And Maya had chosen Lucas just as he had chosen her, across all the differences and obstacles that might have kept them apart. In the end, it wasn't about being swept into the arms of a billionaire. It was about finding someone who saw your true worth when you were at your most vulnerable, someone who valued you not for what you could give them, but for who you were at your core. That was the real fairy tale. And Maya Thompson, the cleaning girl who had once fallen asleep in the royal suite, had found it in the most unexpected place, in the heart of the man who owned the hotel. 6 months later, Maya stood in a dressing room at the Hawthorne Grand, Lily fussing with the train of her wedding dress. Through the window she could see the hotel's garden, transformed for the occasion into a floral wonderland. "You look beautiful," Teresa said, tears in her eyes. "Like a princess." Maya smiled at her reflection. The dress was indeed princess-like, an elegant A-line gown with delicate lace details, but what made her truly beautiful today was the happiness radiating from within. "It's time," Sophia announced, poking her head into the room. "Everyone's ready." Maya took a deep breath. James was waiting outside to walk her down the aisle, a role he had accepted with solemn pride when she asked him. "Ready to become Mrs. Hawthorne?" he asked, offering his arm. "More than ready," Maya replied, as the music began and they started. Their walk toward the altar, Maya caught sight of Lucas waiting for her. His face lit up the moment he saw her, his eyes filled with such love that it took her breath away. In that moment, time seemed to stand still. Maya remembered everything that had led to this day. The exhaustion, the struggle, the chance encounter that had changed everything. And she knew with absolute certainty that she would do it all again, exactly the same way, if it meant ending up here. Because sometimes fairy tales did come true. Sometimes love really was enough to bridge different worlds, and sometimes the most beautiful stories began with a simple act of kindness, like letting a tired cleaning girl keep her job after finding her asleep in the royal suite. As Maya reached Lucas and placed her hand in his, she knew this wasn't an ending but a beginning. Their story, the real story, beyond the gossip and the headlines, was just getting started, and it was going to be beautiful. The end.